Today, I'm finding the best weapon from every season of Fortnite over the last 8 years to ultimately try and find the very best weapon in Fortnite's entire history. Starting right at the beginning, Chapter 1, Season 1, and there was no better feeling than finding a scar, whether it was in a chest or on the floor loot. It would cause arguments in your squad as to who was going to pick it up and use it, and this version of a scar was actually bugged. The headshot multiplier was 2.5, meaning a single bullet to the head would do 98 damage. And although there were things like double pumping in the game, there was no better feeling than picking up this weapon. It felt like you had to win the game. It was so powerful and ultimately created a legacy that will mean that the scar is going to be remembered forever as one of the best Fortnite weapons in the game. But not necessarily the best. As Chapter 1 Season 2, the minigun was added and this thing shredded. Maximum ammo back then was 999, so this thing could go on forever. Absolutely wiping through builds, and at a time where turbo building wasn't a thing, you were manually clicking every time you place something down. Walls wouldn't protect you. This thing was going to completely demolish you, and it was really hard to find. For Season 3, the guided missile launcher was very buggy, but so much fun. When it first launched, it dealt a huge amount of damage, created self-rocket riding memes, but was so powerful and so ultimately broken that Epic didn't keep it in the game for a very long time. In fact, it only returned very recently after 8 years, after Epic finally figured out how to fix it, and it's an absolutely iconic weapon. But let's talk about Season 4, the drum gun. You didn't need an assault rifle, you didn't need a shotgun, you just needed as many drum guns as you could get your hands on. It had high damage, it had a high fire rate, it shredded builds, it shredded people's health. And in all future versions of this weapon returning, it has never been as good as when it was first added. So many of these guns dealt so much damage that if they were placed into Fortnite nowadays, people would complain instantly, and the drum gun would always have a special place in my heart. Things changed as the compact SMG was added. A lot of the epic and legendary versions of weapons weren't in game yet. So this added those tiers in for the SMG category, and it was so powerful, it actually dealt more damage per second than Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. Season 5's meta was all about these SMGs, incredibly accurate, very tight hit fire spread, and was yet another weapon that had to be nerfed because it was so powerful. If you found one of these things and then a scar alongside it, you were laughing your way to an easy win. And talking of epic and legendary versions, we finally got the pump versions. As up until this point, the blue pump was the best version of pump in the game, and that was already very strong, with the gold pump doing 220 damage to the head, instantly killing anyone with full health and full shield, quickly putting an end to the SMG spray meta that had lasted for the previous few seasons. Finding this weapon was starting to become more exciting than finding a scar, because it could one-hit kill people, build fights were getting more common, and getting up close and personal was becoming more important. But oh boy, we did not know what was about to come to the game next. Season 7 introduced another new mythic in the form of the Infinity Blade, granting the user 200 HP and 200 shield. But there was only one on the map. Trying to land and pick this thing up was just carnage. And I forgot this, but looking back at my old video, you could actually build whilst holding the blade as well. It got released during a winter tournament at the time, completely ruining it. Fun bit of lore, Donald Mustard from Epic Games worked on a mobile game called Infinity Blade, which is where this weapon inspiration came from. But it was just so overpowered that Epic nerfed it, then ultimately vaulted it only a few weeks after adding it, and it was meant to play a way bigger part of the Fortnite season, but it had to go. Season 8 brought the boom bow, one of my favorite weapons, believe it or not, in Chapter 1. First ever bow in Fortnite, using shotgun ammo, but actually being an explosive. It was basically like a portable sniper that you could move with and was deadly accurate, dealing 150 damage to the head, and then explosive damage even if you didn't directly hit the person. I remember picking this thing up and just building up high and sniping people from above and having so much success with it. And to even the field even more, Season 9 brought the combat shotgun, one of the most unique shotguns we'd seen up until this point, with a very tight hit fire spread, super fast fire rate, and a really good range as well. It was the first time that pump had been vaulted. And I just remember really struggling to get my head around this shotgun that fired this fast and was so accurate. And everyone didn't like it at first. But it was around this time people were qualifying for the Fortnite World Cup. You see crazy clips of pros using it and realizing that actually this shotgun was insane. But not as crazy as a limited time weapon, the legendary tactical SMG. It could exclusively be found within loot stars at Starry Suburbs for the final 3 weeks of Season X before we jumped into Chapter 2, and was the most powerful SMG ever in the game at that time. The fire rate was crazy, the damage was crazy, it was so rare, and a lot of people never got to use this gun because of how short of a period of a time it was in game. And the world lost their minds as the Fortnite servers went down and came up to Chapter 2 with the addition of a mysterious mythic goldfish. The first ever throwable weapon, and so rare that it took players weeks and weeks to even realize it was in game, with a 1 in a million chance of it being fished out of a watering hole. Fun fact, when it was first added, it only dealt 90 damage. But it was so hard to find that no one found it during that period. Epic patched it to do 200 damage. It would always kill someone if it hit them. But throwing it and being accurate was not easy. I never found it in my entire history of Fortnite from just fishing. It's become a lot more common in game mode since. But I remember hunting for it and desperately wanting it. And we know what comes next with the return of the drum gun. This time it's Midas's version, and oh boy, is this weapon crazy. Bosses took over the island, and this is probably one of my most favorite seasons of all time. Aim assist was still extremely powerful on controller. If you pick this thing up, you didn't even need to aim down sight. Just hold the shoot button down. It would lock onto enemies and wipe them out. It's returned in many mythical forms since, but none of the stats have been as good as the original Midas's drum gun. But more bosses came along with more mythics in Chapter 2 Season 3 with Kit's charged shotgun, replacing the pump shotgun again. A lot of people didn't like this weapon, but I did. A mythic dealt almost 240 damage to the head. Epic had to nerf it. It was so powerful. And it also came along with Kit's shockwave launcher, as both of the mythics you'd get from taking Kit down, meaning you could launch up in the air, charge your shotgun, and land on people's heads for the ultimate takedown. And the mythics continued in Season 4's Marvel season with the Stark Industries energy rifle. Iron Man had its own dedicated update in the season, adding in Stark Industries and Iron Man himself. And this weapon could spray close range with a high fire rate or aim down sight for a slower fire rate but more powerful shot. I never quite mastered this weapon, but in the right hands it was incredible. And the next season brought exotics for the very first time. Remember my iconic 360 kill with the suppressed pistol? Well, they took inspiration from that and upgraded it to give it its own exotic version, the Shadow Tracker. Not only was it quiet, very accurate and high damage, but it would track the enemy and show their location after you hit them. The only issue is it cost so much gold, over 1,000 gold from one NPC on the island, making it a super useful weapon, and you would have seen it used a lot more if it wasn't so expensive. And the Primal season came next, and I like to forget this season, to be honest with you, but the Primal shotgun was actually ridiculous and very annoying. It was basically a drum shotgun, but stronger. There was a mythic version available that was so strong they simply had to remove it, and it got nerfed because so many people were complaining about it, but it still was super strong. And as much as I love a drum shotgun, I do like to forget about the Primal season. Sorry, Primal. Let's move into Season 7, Superman, Rick and Morty. The railgun was here. This thing was incredible. It's 0 bullet drop, 0 damage drop off. It's basically a laser sniper that could shoot through walls. Combo with the recon scanner, which was added in that season, but as long as they were just behind a single wall, you could charge up the railgun, wait for them to stand still, aim at their head, and they just die through the wall. Like, it's insane. Do you remember the sideways minigun from Season 8? The sideways version meant it actually did more damage when it was hotter, so the longer you shot, the more damage it did, but it wasn't easy to get. You had to go to these sideways spots and open up chests within these sideways portals, and it wasn't easy to find, making that original minigun even better. Then after only 8 seasons, we jumped into Season 3 with the MK7 assault rifle. First ever red dot sight in Fortnite, changing the game forever. It melted structures, it melted enemies because your shot was going exactly where that target was, and even the common version was better than most other legendary weapons. And specifically, the Foundation's MK7 assault rifle was the most ridiculous thing ever. And fun fact, if you got that weapon, put it in a tent, get multiple mythic versions of that weapon in a single game, which you weren't meant to do. Chapter Chapter 3 Season 2 not only introduced my icon skin and added in Zero build, but also the Stinger SMG, a fast-firing, very accurate SMG. With the MK7 being nerfed, this SMG started to take the role as being one of the best weapons in the game and had no structure damage fall off at distances, meaning you could spray at builds miles away and deal loads of damage to them. But the next season brought one of my favorite ARs ever, the Hammer Assault Rifles. Basically a stronger version of a Scar, believe it or not. Less recoil, more damage, more accurate, and the weapon was improved after the start of the season to be more accurate. And oh my goodness, I forgot about growing seeds. Dude, Fortnite were doing Grow a Garden before Grow a Garden was a thing. This gave you the chance to get the mythic version of the Hammer Assault Rifle. This weapon's now iconic across like Reload, and I just love having it in my hands. An absolute beast of a weapon. And Season 4 added in chrome weapons. They were interesting. They could be upgraded. The more you used them, the evolution bar went up. Once that bar was complete, the rarity of that weapon would go up. The Evo Burst Assault Rifle, getting all the way up to Mythic, which you could do just by ranking it up in game, would deal tons of damage and at a far faster burst fire rate than other bursts we'd seen in the game. And after just 4 seasons, we're suddenly in Chapter 4, bringing us to that 4-season cycle and the introduction of the Heisted Breacher Shotgun. At the end of Season 4, we had almost like a mini season at the end of its own mini battle pass, introducing tons of heisted exotic weapons, and these were insane. Really hard to actually pick a single exotic from this season, but it shot a slug instead of a pellet, could one-shot any structure including metal walls, and if you were accurate with it, would deal a ton of damage, but it was incredible for breaking into people's boxes and catching them off guard. Now that I think about it, I really miss mini battle passes. I hope they bring them back. Chapter 4 Season 2 brought the mythic overclocked pulse rifle, one of the most powerful mythics ever in Fortnite's history. It was basically the Stark Industries rifle, but better in every single stat, in fact. It could hit fire fast, it could aim down sight super accurately, but you had to capture Loot Island, which means it was only ever in the game for that very final period of the game. It was Epic's way of adding in crazy weapons that would only be used towards endgame, but if you got it, you're gonna probably win. And the Mammoth Pistol came in Season 3, super rewarding with massive damage to the body and head, and augments were in game at the time as well. If you had the right combo of augments and the Mammoth Pistol in your hand, it could be even more accurate, deal even more damage, and we know to this day that it's still one of the most popular weapons, again thanks to Reload. And then Season 4 introduced a twin mag assault rifle. The red dot sight, a faster first reload of your magazine, very little recoil. This thing was very, very easy to use, and I love anything with a red dot on. It's just point and shoot, and this thing was fun. And our first proper mini season came in the form of Chapter 4 Season OG. And out of all the crazy loot pool in Season OG, there was one weapon that rose to the top as being very underrated. We're talking about the semi-auto sniper rifle. It got secretly buffed just before the launch of Season OG and would deal 250 damage to the head, even at uncommon rarity. They increased the speed of the bullet travel time and had 10 shots, so you could spam this thing. You didn't even need to be super accurate, and quickly became one of the most powerful weapons in OG, even though it wasn't that powerful in actual OG. And next up was Chapter 5 Season 1, of my favorite seasons. It had to be the Reaper sniper rifle. The first thing I'd try and do in any game, I was playing a lot of ranked at the time, is find a sniper rifle, go to a mod bench, put the triangle sight on it with extended magazines and faster ADS time, and it basically had no bullet drop, so you just shot people's head and they would go down. It made sniping so fun. It was one of the most fun seasons of Fortnite in recent times. And to nerf this gun twice because it was so powerful, and I still miss it to this day. Season 2 arrived with all the Greek gods and the Gatekeeper shotgun. This thing was incredible. Maybe one of the best shotguns of all time here. It would almost always eliminate people in just 2 shots. And weirdly, the legendary version was preferred over the mythic version. Even though the mythic version dealt more damage, the legendary could be modded to have 5 shots, whereas the mythic was stuck at 3. It had a really fast reload time, and oh my goodness, it made close range gunfights so much easier with this in your hand, but most people also had it in their hands as well. So we went into the controversial Season 3 with nitro and overpowered cars. They did give us the combat assault rifle. Again, modding was huge for being able to add on a red dot sight, make the recoil better. The mythic version this time was the best. Get it from the machinist boss, machinist, I always said her name wrong. And it was preloaded with a suppressor, a red dot sight, basically no recoil. This thing was incredible. There was another Marvel season just around the corner with the Emma Frost Striker Burst Assault rifle, melting people. Red dot, very little recoil, and also came with her scanning medallion, making her the most sought-after boss to take down that season. There's only one mythic per map, so if you got it, you're in good hands, and it really makes me miss that Marvel season, actually. As we jumped into Chapter 2 Remix with the Legacy Tactical Assault Rifle. They completely reworked this weapon for the return of Chapter 2 Remix. It had basically no recoil, very tight spread. Again, a red dot sight. It matched Eminem's mythic minigun in damage, but you had a red dot sight. Like, how crazy is that? Sometimes there are weapons on the map that are better than the mythic boss equivalents. And for me, the original Chapter 2 will always be better than the remix version, but it was a fun season. As we jump into now with Chapter 6, starting off with Season 1, the Hollow Twister Assault Rifle. I'm an AR kind of guy. I used to play a lot of Call of Duty, and the assault rifle was my most comfortable weapon, and this thing was incredible. They keep on giving us sighted weapons that just feel incredible. Good for long range, mid-range, tight spread, low recoil. You had to nerf it mid-season because it was a little bit too powerful and wasn't great close range, but for an overall assault rifle long-range weapon, you needed this in your inventory. Don't forget we had Oni masks, so you could shoot people from far away. If they got too close, just portal away and shoot them again. This thing was great. For Chapter 6 Season 2, I'm going to give it to a melee weapon. The kneecapper was so spammed. You get to the end game and everyone had one in their inventory. It was great because simply holding it allowed you to move so much faster. Hitting people would send them flying back, so in the end zones, you could hit them into storm. Can't lie, I found this thing a little bit annoying, but you could not deny how strong it was. And ever since this season, a lot of people still carry melee weapons into the final zone, hoping that they can spam them, but none of them has been as good as the kneecapper. Rather, at the end of the season, we've had a mini-season in the middle with Star Wars. And who remembers the 280-CFE blaster rifle? When you see it, you'll realize what I mean. It was the only weapon to have a built-in scope. You could toggle the zoom, low recoil, and the Mythic Enhanced version was even better. And actually, I really enjoyed not thinking about ammo in that Star Wars season. So although the weapons were a bit whack, I really liked it. Bringing us to Chapter 6 Season 3, where there were even more exotics in the game. You don't see them too often because you've got to take down those spire bosses, but they are really good. The unstable Frostfire shotgun can deal 2 elemental effects. Either you will get pepper effect and you'll go nice and quick, or it will give the enemy a slowdown effect, meaning that they can't move very quick and they're going to get stuck being killed by you. The identical stats to the legendary Sentinel pump shotgun, which is one of the best pump shotguns in Chapter 6. But you need a bit of luck to get it as a drop from the Overlord Spire boss, meaning you can't guarantee getting it. It's one of the most powerful exotics in recent times, but what's the most powerful weapon of all time? If I had to pick one, and let me know if you disagree or what your choice would be down below in the comment section, I think I know what it's going to be. Don't forget you can support my videos by going to the item shop and entering code ALIA. It's a free way to support me if you've enjoyed this video. As for me, the Midas drum gun will never be topped. We'll never see a weapon as powerful as that. The scariest weapon to hear someone shooting coming at you and feeling incredible in your hands. This mythic will always be undefeated. Pull out your phone camera and go straight to the item shop by scanning this QR code here, or click on screen here. See over 100 of the craziest Fortnite secrets I bet you never knew about. Definitely watch if you haven't. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on another video.